Disordered eating messaging is all around us. You can hardly leave your house or check your phone without seeing something about dieting, weight loss, or exercise. With all that pressure, it can be hard to recognize habits have become harmful or even an eating disorder. If you're concerned you or a loved one might have an eating disorder, I want to introduce you to Equip. Equip is a fully virtual, evidence-based eating disorder treatment program that helps patients achieve lasting recovery at home. Every Equip patient is matched with a multidisciplinary care team that includes a therapist, dietitian, medical provider, and mentors, and you get a personalized treatment plan that's tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Equip treats patients of all ages and all eating disorder diagnoses. It's covered by insurance, and there's no wait list. If you think that you or a loved one could be struggling with an eating disorder, don't wait to get help. Visit equip.health to learn more. That's equip.health.
Unlock the savings at Boost Mobile and save up to $600 a year. I've been scouting these big carriers for a minute now, and I've seen them pull the same play 1,000 times. They promise you the world, then hit you with a price hike right when the game gets tight. But Boost Mobile, their $25 a month unlimited wireless plan is the most consistent player on the floor. No contracts, no price hikes. Unlock the savings today at boostmobile.com/unlock. Based on average annual single line payment of AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile customers compared to 12 months of the Boost Mobile unlimited wireless plan as of January 2026. For full offer details, visit boostmobile.com.
Ever wonder who's out there making the world go round? It's truckers. Who unites baristas with coffee beans? Truckers. Who unites dogs with their favorite chew toy? Truckers. That's why Progressive offers truckers even more protection with Cargo Plus coverage to keep truckers moving right along. Quote truck insurance today in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms, limits, and conditions. Not yet available in California, New York, and Virginia.
This series is sponsored by Books at One, a social enterprise dedicated to transforming bookshops into community hubs that promote literacy nationwide. Welcome to Aran Island This, a podcast series where we talk to Irish people from different walks of life as they reflect on their own journeys. Join me, Russell McDermott, as we explore the many aspects of Irishness and what it means to each of our guests through life's ups and downs. Mike Ruddock, welcome to Aran Island This.
Hey Rossa, thanks for inviting me on. Looking forward to the chat.
Now tell us, have you been to the Aran Islands? Or have you got some story to tell us?
I haven't been, but I should have gone because my mother, Margaret Mary Cowell, originally from County Clare, Kildysett. In County Clare, she used to holiday every year over on the west coast of Ireland, places like Quilty. And I think, if you go up that coast, you can look out onto the Aran Islands. I've been up and down that coast quite a few times. Absolutely beautiful, stunning, just really special part of Ireland. So really, I should have hopped on the ferry and got over there, but I regret to inform you that I didn't.
Is there any place equivalent in Wales or any other place you've been in Ireland that's... John Robbie talked about Robben Island. Any place you've been which has a special memory?
Yeah, well, I visited Robben Island as well back when I was in South Africa with the Ireland under-20s for the Junior World Cup, So, yeah, that was quite humbling and pretty amazing. But Wales, believe it or not, has got beautiful coastline, and I'm very lucky to live on the Gower Peninsula, Swansea, or as locally we call it, Swan Diego. It's pretty special. We got places like Langland Bay, Caswell Bay, Three Cliffs Bay, Oxwich Bay, Rossili Bay. It's just a stunning bit of coastline, and it's very much like the west coast of Ireland. It can be rugged in places, beautiful in places. It can be welcoming in the winter. It can be quite fierce, blustery, but overall it's a place of great beauty. And where you can spend time away from it all, really. It's, there are places just to sort of
escape,
take away, the daily sort of grind, if you like, and perhaps head off for a picnic and get some great views,
Yeah. How do you describe yourself, Mike? You're a rugby coach or an ex-player. In your head, how do you see yourself? You're rugby through and through, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm rugby through and through. I've reinvented myself a few times, Rossa. I spoke to you off air that I'm actually a musician as well.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, is that an influence that I've, I've sort of handed through the generations from Irish music and influences around that, and my mother's side of the family. But I guess I would describe myself as a rugby coach. But I'd like to think I've grown in a number of areas over and above being a rugby coach. Originally, I was a electricity board linesman, like an outdoor electrician. Whenever your power goes off at night and you can't watch EastEnders or
things are serious.
Or Nationwide, I think, over there.
Yeah.
So when you can't watch those things, I'd be the guy that would come out, put the ladder up and get up and fix all the cables. And, we might talk about it later, but obviously that's what happened to me was an industrial accident while working as a linesman. And, it meant I couldn't play rugby anymore. And I went into coaching. But on my passport, I would describe myself as a rugby coach. But I'd also like to think I've grown, do a lot of work in business development. I'm involved in a number of projects. I like to think I'm pretty good now in terms of being a connector, connecting people up that are able to, discuss different projects and perhaps even do business together. So I think because I've traveled quite a bit and I've met a lot of people, it's opened up a network and made me realize that network really is more than useful in a number of ways.
Obviously, you sound like a person that leadership comes easy to.
No, not really. I think I was a natural leader. I heard a bit of Alan Quinlan's chat, which was brilliant and most interesting. I remember coaching Alan back in the day with the Island A team when he was on his way through. And he talked about, perhaps not having a huge amount of confidence. And I think, I was the same, and imposter syndrome has sort of dogged me all my life. And
even still?
Yeah, even still. Oh, yeah, massively, and don't ask me why. I don't really know. Perhaps it's because I'm a product of, working class background from coal mining towns, and you see a lot of hardship in those towns, and perhaps, you don't always feel that, you've got a rightful place at the top table of things, So I think that's been an ongoing battle. Having said that, I've realized of late, probably later than I wanted to, the power of positive self-talk, Rossa, So I'll give you an example. I was on the golf course at my local golf club, Langland Bay Golf Club, which is beautiful. It looks out over two.
I've seen pictures of that. Never heard of it before, but it looks stunning.
Oh, it's stunning. I turned up the other day for my first ever little diddly competition, it's called, and I was last in the group of 4 at 8 points on the front 9. And the guy who was marking the card, ripped it out of me a bit. And do you know what I did? I said to myself, right, for the back 9, I will become Rory McIlroy. Yeah. I took a deep breath before every drive and I sailed it right down the middle. I scored 21 points on the back 9. And more than ever, it taught me the power of positive thought and positive thinking. So, I think that's a big lesson there for me. It's come later in life than I wanted. But yeah, I think most people, when you talk to a lot of leaders, leadership is, it's a lonely place. It's a difficult place. And I think sometimes to be a really top leader, you've got to be capable of listening. You've got to be capable of showing your humble and vulnerable side at times. And I think if you've got those traits as well, there's always a chance that can make you a little less confident than someone just storming into a room and telling everybody how they think it should be done. So yeah, I think that's the balance for leadership. I won't say it came naturally, but a bit like Alan Quinlan said, I felt I was a talented player. So when I crossed the whitewash, my confidence just sort of came because, I just seemed to be able to do things and read the game, and was comfortable with that,
Therefore, at 26, when that part of your life was cut short due to the accident, how did you deal with that?
Yeah, it was a difficult time. I'd played for the Welsh schoolboys. I'd played for my local youth team. We'd been champions of Wales from a very small village called Blaina. I was on the bench for Newport at 18. I had an industrial accident then. At 18, I got, believe it or not, a concrete lamppost fell on top of my back and ended up having an operation on my back at 18. So I showed a lot of resilience to come back from that. I played for my village team. I played for a team called Tredegar, which was in the Welsh Valleys, which was a slightly better level. I was like the top try scorer for Tredegar. And then all of a sudden, I had a phone call from Swansea rugby team, who were one of the top 4 teams in Wales playing all the touring teams. So I guess Swansea would be the equivalent of the Ospreys now, that sort of region packed with international players. And they rang me up and they said, look, there's a guy called Mark Keyworth who's an England flanker. He's retiring and we're looking for somebody that could play at his sort of level, international level. And we've been watching you and we'd like you to come down to Swansea. Now, Rossa, in those days, Swansea was it was that far away. It was our summer holiday destination.
Yeah, down the M4, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was an hour and a half over the heads of the valleys, down through Herwine, down through Neath, Glenneath, all those sort of places to get to Swansea and then out onto the Gower coast, Yeah. And we were like pit ponies, like the ponies used to take down the pit. With, we'd be in the dark of the Welsh valleys, stuck between two mountains. And then once a year, they put the ponies up on top for a bit of fresh air to see the daylight. And we were a bit like that. We would take into the coast for 2 weeks a year. We'd do some camping. We'd splash about in the sea all day and then back up into the coal mining valleys for the rest of the year. But, I did love my environment. I loved the coal mining valleys. I loved the tribalism of it all. But, of course, travelling then to Swansea as a player, it was 100 miles round trip. No one ever did that after work. And most of the guys from my area, if they went to play for a first-class team, they went to local teams like Newport, Pontypool, Ebbw Vale. And the attraction roster in those days would be Ebbw Vale would give you a job in the steelworks.
Yeah.
Pontypool would give you a job in a factory that they had over there. That was how it was done. I sort of broke the mold and went west and started playing for Swansea, and it was the best thing I ever did. And I was going pretty good guns. I played for the Wales B team. Made the Wales squad. I'd even got a letter from the British and Irish Lions asking me if I was available to tour New Zealand in 1981, I think it was. Unfortunately, the selectors weren't very good, Ross, so they didn't pick me.
Didn't see. Not forward thinking enough.
Very bad bunch of selectors, guys. They didn't pick me. So at 26, I was on the verge, I think, of finally getting the cap after a few, Welsh squad appearances. But I got injured at work. I got knocked off a ladder. I fractured my skull. I fractured 3 vertebrae in my back. I smashed up the organ of balance in my left ear. I was pretty busted up, to say the least. And off work basically for about 10 months. I had all sorts of balance issues. I couldn't sort of focus on any particular object, particularly if I was moving. So if I tried to run and play rugby again, I just couldn't really focus on the ball. Now, I wasn't the best catcher and passer in the world in the first place, but when you're seeing a ball moving towards you and it sort of feels like it's wobbling all the time, then it became very difficult. So I was advised to give up rugby. I couldn't run on the roads because there was no gyms in those days with treadmills, Rossa.
Yeah.
So I tried to run on the roads, but I got stabbing pains in my back.
I was going to say compression there. Yeah,
from the compression fractures. So I used to go down, when the lights came on at my local rugby club in Blaina, I would go down there and do some laps and do some sprints because I could run on the grass. It wasn't as sort of, the impacts weren't as difficult to take. So I was running on the grass, and coach of the team asked if I would help out with the team. At the end of the season, he moved on to a different club, and the Blaina Rugby Club asked me to take over as coach. It was very amateur. There were no payments in those days, but it was a great honour, Rossa, to coach my village team. I'd grown up; the guys were my heroes as kids. I watched them. So to be coach of my village team, as you said, a leadership type position. Wow, this was, I'd made the big time.
But in your head, were you carrying baggage of what you had to leave behind, or were you just looking at the positives of what you'd gained in the coaching side?
Yeah, I mean, look.
You say so matter-of-factly, but at 26, to see a potential career shrivel up and suffer the injuries and have to deal with them as well, and then find a new way forward and still love the game, which you could have said, my God, the game has been cruel to me.
Yeah, well, I hear you, but I guess my background from, the coal mining heavy industry environment I was born and raised in, and I keep telling my kids, outside toilet, no central heating, you guys have got
You sound like my father, though.
Yeah, so my background from the coal mining valleys, I guess, sort of had an influence around not dwelling too much on my injuries and my, loss of the ability to play rugby. You see, in the coal mining valleys, there were lots of things that happened. There were explosions in pits that we were told about, the local pit at Six Bells.
Yeah.
And in 1966, for example, as a young child myself, I remember watching on TV in black and white the Aberfan disaster, where a whole generation of children had been wiped out in one school. I think something like 144 people died in the Aberfan disaster, and they were children just like me, my sort of age. I was about 6, 7 at the time. It was horrendous. So, unfortunately, in the Welsh valleys at that time, there were lots of stories around hardships and people, being killed, in pits and mining accidents. So, I was still alive. I had a chance to get fit again, albeit with a few, sort of restrictions. I'd lost the hearing in my left ear, so I've been deaf in the left ear since 1985, my accident. So that, I had to adjust to that. I'd severed the audio nerve. So, and I had ongoing back issues. So, yeah, looking back, it was difficult, but, I was determined to get on with my life. I started to learn to play the guitar. There was no internet in those days. There was no daytime TV. What could I do? So, I decided to have a go at learning the guitar. I'm not much better now, 30, 40 years old. But, I'm in a band. I think I mentioned to you before. The band was called Take This, but Take That complained. They were too many people buying our records instead of this. So we had to change our name to the Gower Tone. So, there's a couple of positives came out of that. I've had great fun as a musician with a band. And, the injuries and the universe opened up an opportunity for me to get into coaching. And that was a path that I sort of fell into accidentally. After my accident, I had another accident. I fell into coaching.
Yeah. And that's where the Ireland part came in, was it?
Sorry?
That's how Ireland came into the picture as well. You got opportunities to come over here.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things around the universe on that one. I remember, coaching Blaina first, and I lost the first 4 games. I did a coaching course in Swansea, and, I came back thinking I knew it all about coaching. And we lost the first 4 games. And the committee called me into the room and they said, if you lose Saturday, you're gone.
You're gone.
So that's the first introduction to coaching. It was absolutely ruthless. And my, my town had a great pedigree of results over the years. And as I said, the lads I was coaching were all sort of my age. We'd won the Welsh Youth Cup together, so I knew they were all good players. And suddenly we lost the first 4 games. We were bottom of the league. So I reached out to guys that I'd played alongside with. They were, I was now coaching them. I said, where am I going wrong? They said, Coach, we love the fact that we got 2 bags of balls. We're doing a lot more skills, but we don't feel as fit as we normally do. We normally run up the mountains pre-season and got super fit. So I tweaked the program, adjusted it, gave them a little bit more fitness. We won on the Saturday by a point. I kept my job and we didn't lose any other games all season and became champions. So that was my first start in coaching, and I realized, wow, this is a roller coaster ride. And then very quickly, I'll tell you about my second season. And I learned big time there, Rossa, as a leader and as a coach, you can't keep everybody happy all the time,
Yeah.
It's made me realize that as life has gone on. So we became runners-up in the league, but we got to the cup final, Monmouthshire Cup final. It was a big thing. It was called the Ben Francis Cup. All the second-class teams were in this, and we were in the final, and we won. And I came back to the clubhouse after, walked in with my chest out, thinking I was the best coach ever. I'd won the league the year before. Now I've won the cup. How good am I? Walked to the bar, ordered a pint of Guinness, and the lady behind the bar just looked at me and walked away. And I said to the lads, have I upset that lady? And they said, yes. You dropped her husband for the cup final. So she wouldn't serve me all night. Actually, that worked in my favour because I couldn't buy beer, so the boys had to
save money.
Saved a load of money. But, what rubbed salt into the wounds, on the Monday morning, I walked to the local co-op to get some groceries, and I looked up when I put my basket on at the till, and she was on the till, and she looked at me, undid the bolt on the kiosk and walked out, So I knew I'd have to leave that team, otherwise I'd starve to death. So And so that's why I sort of moved on, really. I literally moved on because I couldn't get served. So I went to another club and eventually found my way to Swansea. Sorry, found my way to Bective Rangers.
I was there last Saturday. Yeah. There's a place.
We played in the final, God bless them.
Yeah.
They lost by a point or
Yeah,
two.
point.
I had a great season there, and Reese, my younger boy, was born that year in Dublin. And obviously his Irishness then shone through because he went on to play for Ireland and captain Ireland. But yeah, this was all, this was another big step for me, even bigger than a boy from a small coal mine in town travelling west to play rugby for Swansea. Suddenly I'm travelling to a different country to become a coach.
But in those days compared to now, Mike, people from Wales knew about rugby. We saw on TV. It's a very different game now. But in those days, being Welsh, rugby was in your blood. We believed you could be a good coach. Is that not fair?
Absolutely spot on. And I tell you something now. I came out of retirement. It was sort of 5 years since I'd had my accident, and I was talked into playing a vets game for Bective Rangers. And I think we won all 3 games. It was in Old Belvedere. And we got banned from lifting the trophy and disqualified because they reckon we'd taken it too seriously. So we were disqualified, But I'd sort of played on a Sunday a few times. And I remember coming back into Bective Clubhouse, and Rugby Special used to be on
this Sunday afternoon.
On a Sunday afternoon,
Yeah.
Nigel Stammer-Smith would be commentating, and Swansea, my old club, scored what would become the try of the season. It was from under their own post. They ran the length of the field into passing and scored against Bridgend, the other end of the field. And I always remember it. This lad in Bective Clubhouse turned to me and he said, "Mike, tell me about Welsh rugby. We'll never, ever be as good as that." And how the tables have turned, And you're absolutely right. I think at that time, if you were Welsh, you were, you were believed to be the font of all knowledge
the kings of the world. The kings of the world were in rugby.
Yeah. So it was interesting.
And I saw Sir Gareth, one of the games this year. And it was so sad to see Wales be hammered and him be so. I mean, I know him well. So historical. It must be very hard to balance that in his head and your head. How Wales have decomposed.
Yeah, but as I say, I think we're pragmatic in terms of understanding that, we've let ourselves.
But society's changed, Mike. The way of life has changed. Club, community.
Society's changed. All the things I talked about when I grew up in the Welsh valleys, there was lots of work there. We were poor, but we didn't know we were poor because we all had jobs. Everyone had jobs.
Yeah.
The steelworks and the coal mines. You go to those towns now and social deprivation is there to be seen right in front of your eyes. There's a lot of unemployment. Drugs have come into those communities. It's difficult. So I see a lot of change, and I think a lot of change has happened in school. When I went to school, we had the grammar school, the secondary schools, but all those schools had ex-rugby players coaching rugby in schools. And there was a pathway, a real conveyor belt of talent right throughout Wales. Gwent tended to produce, or Monmouthshire tended to produce the forwards. I was from that area. A lot of big, tough guys from coal mining backgrounds. And in West Wales, the farmers, agriculture, tended to be, better fleet-footed sort of rugby players. And they would be the backs, in the Welsh team. And it was a pretty simple sort of model. And that's sort of how it all operated. And we were all benefited from ex-players coaching. Now, I've spoken to teachers who are in schools locally, and I say, your school doesn't play rugby anymore. And why is that? And they say, well, by the time we do a risk assessment, and then if we got to tell little Johnny's mum and dad that he's had a bump on the head, it just becomes difficult. The laws are too complex unless you've played the game at a higher level. So it's easier to throw a soccer ball in the middle of the field for a sports session, So that's what's really happened, and it's eroded the talent pool that we've had. Rossa, that's what's happened there.
Yeah, very discouraging, and it's very hard to. It's going to be very hard to change it. Obviously, the safety thing is coming more and more into the game as well at the younger level. So it's almost a no-brainer. It won't happen probably to the level it used to be, which is sad.
you've got to put a plan in. You've got to have a plan around safety. You've got to have a plan around player development. And so, for example, what's always impressed me, and I've done a bit of coaching in some of the schools in Ireland, is Wednesday afternoon is no lessons. It's rugby. It's 200 kids out on the field. I did a little bit of coaching in Castleknock College. I remember there's loads of teams out there. There's loads of children out there, and they're all passing a rugby ball. And they taught and coached superbly by the coaches there and the director of rugby there. Tackle technique, discipline around, tactics, and a lot of safety goes into the coaching. So they're making the game as safe as they can, but everyone's got a plan. There's a weekly plan about when they play and train and practice their rugby.
And you're saying it's not that like that in Wales?
It's not like that in Wales. No, it's left a chance, really. Some schools will pick it up and play it. Other schools don't bother anymore. And, the teachers have lost interest. So that's a numbers game then. You're going to be down on numbers and you're not going to get the same level of talent coming through, So that's where we've fallen down. And I think, you can turn it around. We just got to have a plan, and you've got to put the work into the plan, really, and make sure that it's bespoke and specific to what Wales needs.
And what do you think Ireland have done right then, given your switched allegiance? Just got all those things right. The schools play strong rugby. They furnished Leinster anyway, a couple of schools, and players keep coming on to the point they've probably got too many.
Well, I think we all look at the model and say, wow, that's a great model. It starts with identity, Rossa, right? If you as it going back to my early days playing for Swansea, the great Cliff Morgan, who went to Bective, playing for Cardiff, these were brands that were iconic, that were known globally. There was a sense of identity. Everyone knew where Cardiff was. Everyone knew where Swansea was, and, Ireland have got that, Leinster, Munster, Ulster, Connacht, 4 geographical identities, and people in those provinces are very proud of their teams, and want to play for their teams. And that creates an identity, it creates a level of tribalism, so you don't want to cross over and play for one of the other teams unless you absolutely have to. Your goal is to play for your provincial team.
Yeah.
There's a massive sense of identity. We've sort of amalgamated clubs and, given them, names that sort of mean they get lost really in translation, a bit like the Ospreys, the Dragons, the Blues. Now, I know they've gone back to calling themselves Cardiff, but I think we lost a lot of ground really, and a lot of players were flipping back and forth the different teams, and we didn't nurture and develop that sense of identity and pride in our local area and our local region and, who we're playing for. Yeah. And make it a very special thing because, look, when you've got 2 minutes to go and you're defending your own line and you're in a low position, you got to get off that line and make a tackle. Otherwise, they win the game. The opposition win the game. Believing in who you play for, believing and having developed an appetite over a number of years to be in that team and to be representing that team with all your heart and soul is going to make the difference of you making that tackle and winning that collision and stopping that lad scoring the try, or just, seeing him go over and getting the try, because, that sense of identity is so important.
And the guy left you and right you feel the exact same. 100%.
And in our defensive coaching, we talk about a chain of 3, your wingman either side, you've got to work with each other, and especially these days when you double up on tackles, one going lower, one going higher to jam on the ball. Trusting the guy next to you is so important. Knowing that he's on the same wavelength as you is so important. And winning those crucial moments, you can only really do that when you got massive team spirit, massive cohesion, a belief in who you play for and a belief in your identity, And you've got to work at those things. And I think Irish rugby have been able to. Ireland, don't forget, we're very reluctant to go professional.
Oh yeah, I know. Remember that? Yeah, I actually thought they got it wrong, and Wales have got it right. And time has proven that England and Wales may have got it wrong, but Ireland got it way right.
I remember when I first went over to coach Leinster in '97.
Yeah,
a lot of the more experienced players had gone off to to England because there was a reluctance to offer up contracts, I believe, in Irish rugby at that time. So the likes of Conor O'Shea, Malcolm O'Kelly,
Paul Wallace went, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And even young Eric Miller, who was a young at the time, went to Leicester, you know?
That's right.
So Leinster were losing a lot of talent. And I came over and you know, started to put a team together. I remember in my second season, I was told about this lad, Brian Driscoll, who was playing really well up in the UCD. So I went up to watch him in the Student World Cup. And he was absolutely ripping sides apart. Now he was an outside half.
Yeah.
And his acceleration off the mark and his ability to beat people, he was just carving teams up. But I do remember him trying to drop goal and hit the corner flag. So I thought,
he's not perfect.
Yeah, he might be better suited in the centre. And oh my gosh, how good was he? You know, he was just, and what a lovely, lovely guy too, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so we had, I guess what I'm saying is we had to develop a crop of youngsters. So it's the same sort of thing that I think Welsh rugby is going to have to go through. And I think Steve Tandy, I got a lot of confidence in Steve Tandy. I think he's a smashing guy, humble sort of bloke that the players will play for. And, you know, he knows that he's in a growth phase.
Yeah.
Every team has got a life cycle, growth, maturity, decline. And he's in that growth phase now. If he can find combinations that, you know, got and put into that Welsh team that culture of a, you know, special identity and cohesion and team spirit, he can bring our Welsh team back. I've no doubt about that.
Good. In terms of talented players you came across along the way, what kind of names come to mind, Mike?
Yeah, well, obviously Brian Driscoll, you know, I used to work with Brian. Now, his teammate in the centre was a lad called Gordon Darcy, you might remember, and he was fullback for Congers Wood when I was. Yeah, he was a fullback. He was carrying a little bit of timber, I remember.
Yeah. Don't say that.
Dr. Liam Hennessy
got him.
Worked with him on his fitness and conditioning, and we moved him in the centre. And wow, you know, what a difference, in his game on the back of that. And he was a very special player as well. So young guys like that. We had Shane Horgan on the wing. I remember, you know, he's just 18. I remember him training on the back pitch in Donnybrook, you know. So we had all these young fellas coming through, and it took a little while for them to just get a bit more experience. And then later on in my life, of course, then, you know, at Swansea, I'd had a lot of young players. I remember signing Scott Gibbs from Neath at about 1950, you know.
The living tank.
Yeah, he was pretty special. So guys like that. And then later on in my time with the Ireland under-20s, I always tease the lads in Wales. In Ireland, I put the Gwent into the Irish forward pack, because a lot of those guys I had at under-20, like Tyke Furlong. You know, I had Tyke Byrne, James Ryan, Ian Henderson, Jack Conan, Josh Van der Fleer, Dan Levy before he got injured. All those guys, you know, in my under-20s as well. So, and my last two hookers in Lansdowne were Dan Sheehan and Ronan Kelleher, you know. So,
some CV.
Fortunate to work with some great young fellas.
Yeah. And if you take the accidents at 18 and 26 as your lowest moment where you had to dig deep for resilience, what are your selfish kind of iconic moments where you said, Mike, I didn't do that half badly, I'll celebrate with a glass of 7-Up? Do you reflect on your highs? What would they sound like?
I try and stay away from the 7-Up.
Don't we all?
Much tricky than that. So probably be a pint of Guinness. But so look, I think that the really special one to me, I think, was my first.
Unlock the savings at Boost Mobile and save up to $600 a year. I've been scouting these big carriers for a minute now, and I've seen them pull the same play 1,000 times. They promise you the world, then hit you with a price hike right when the game gets tight. But Boost Mobile, their $25 a month unlimited wireless plan is the most consistent player on the floor. No contracts, no price hikes. Unlock the savings today at boostmobile.com/unlock. Based on average annual single line payment of AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile customers compared to 12 months of the Boost Mobile unlimited wireless plan as of January 2026. For full offer details, visit boostmobile.com.
Disordered eating messaging is all around us. You can hardly leave your house or check your phone without seeing something about dieting, weight loss, or exercise. With all that pressure, it can be hard to recognize habits have become harmful or even an eating disorder. If you're concerned you or a loved one might have an eating disorder, I want to introduce you to Equip. Equip is a fully virtual, evidence-based eating disorder treatment program that helps patients achieve lasting recovery at home. Every Equip patient is matched with a multidisciplinary care team that includes a therapist, dietitian, medical provider, and mentors, and you get a personalized treatment plan that's tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Equip treats patients of all ages and all eating disorder diagnoses. It's covered by insurance, and there's no wait list. If you think that you or a loved one could be struggling with an eating disorder, don't wait to get help. Visit equip.health to learn more. That's equip.health.
Season in Swansea. Welsh leagues had come into play the first year of that. For the first year while I was in Bective, the season I coached Bective, Welsh leagues had appeared, and Swansea were traditionally one of the top four clubs. Finished last but one, got knocked out of the cup very early, and they rang me up and said, will you come back from Bective Rangers and coach your old club Swansea, which was amazing that they wanted to give me that opportunity. I came back, as I said to you, I signed Scott Gibbs, I signed a boy called Garen Jenkins from Pontypool to give me that coal mining toughness up front, and I signed a boy called Alan Williams, who was an outside half, and those three players made a hell of a difference. And we went from last but one. In my first season, we won the Welsh League. And it was just an amazing thing because I played for the club, sort of had an insight into the mentality of the club, the culture of the club, and I sort of knew straight away what was needed at the club, and sort of put a plan in around that. And so to win the league, against the likes of Cardiff, Clethley, Bridgend, Neath, Newport, all those fantastic Welsh clubs at the time that you mentioned earlier, the strength of Welsh rugby at that time, and all the international players were playing for their clubs, I think it was very, very special. So that was a very special time, I must say. We won the league again a couple of years later. But again, the other big sort of career highlight for me at that time was, beating Australia in 1992, who were the world champions. The John Eales era, Bob Dwyer was the coach. So for a club team to beat Australia, wow, just showed the world champions just showed the strength of Welsh rugby at that time. So those were highlights. I guess 2005 to win the Six Nations and win the first Grand Slam in 27 years was
surely that's up there, isn't it? That must be a sense of achievement.
It is, but I got to tell you, I still go back to 91 for the Swansea one because I don't know. It's probably because I never played for Wales, but I played for Swansea. So it was my club. I was so aligned to how the players felt and what was needed and that level of underperformance, and you're doing it week in, week out. Whereas with Wales, you have a camp for a few weeks and a few games, and then everyone goes back off to their clubs, So it's a much harder environment really to create the same sort of ongoing culture and feel that you would get in a club game.
Yeah. And how do you deal with the Irishness and Welshness all mixed up between your family, your children, your history? It's kind of, you're red angry, aren't you?
It's tricky. It is really tricky, and
you have to remember St. David's Day, then St. Paddy's Day. I mean, it must be.
Yeah, well, I better not say too much about St. Patrick's Day. There's a rumor that St. Patrick was a Welsh fella.
Well, I believe it's true.
Look, I love Ireland. I do think of myself as Irish, but of course, I'm very proud of my Welsh roots. Growing up in the heartlands of Wales, in a coal mining town, I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud that I got the honour of representing Wales as a coach, and I'm very honoured that I got the opportunity to represent Ireland as well. Ireland in the 20s. I did the Ireland A team at one time.
Yeah.
And I even helped out with Ireland at one time when Brian Ashton was coaching as well. So I've been blessed, I've really been blessed. And then to see Rhys, my son, playing 2 World Cups, my youngest son playing 2 World Cups as a player, and captain Ireland 7 times, has been amazing. Our eldest boy, Kieran, is one of the fitness coaches now for the Ireland rugby team. I think he's done 2 World Cups, and my daughter, Katie, has played netball for Ireland under 20s in a World Championship. So, yeah, as much as I feel Welsh, I obviously feel Irish as well. So it's pretty complex, I've got to say, Rossa.
There's some days must be confusing in that house.
It is confusing.
You might need a Guinness to settle the discussions.
Yeah, and just, it's triggered a memory there going back to, the rugby influence. And I mentioned earlier, my mother was Irish, my father was Welsh, and Bernie, my Irish wife's mum, was Irish. But her father was a Welshman from Newport Terry, and when we got married, he said, I don't feel like I've lost a daughter. I feel like I've gained a ticket in the West End. Got to get tickets for the internationals every time, So, the rugby and the Welshness is there, but the Irishness is there as well.
And what have you heard any of the songs that Garatones have played? Have they hit the charts yet?
Yeah, loads of them hit the charts. Mostly we do the covers. A lot of Beatles, 8 Days a Week, Lady Madonna, Hey Jude, that sort of stuff. We do a little bit of Oasis. We do a little bit of Stereophonics. Yeah, a bit of an eclectic mix, I would say, but a lot of covers.
Are you vocals, eh?
Well, no, I do a bit of backing vocals. Our singer is a guy he's 6'7", called Kevin Mosley. He used to play rugby for Pontypool in Wales, and I always introduce him. He was
That's tiny.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't particularly disciplined back in the day, as a lot of the Pontypool players were. So I always say, Kevin Mosley, our lead singer, 6'7", 22 caps for Wales, sent off 23 times. If anybody wants to complain, have a chat to Kevin. And no one, Rossa, has ever heckled us.
I'm sure.
But he's got a great set of pipes. He can really sing. And we do lots for charity. I think we're pleased that we can announce that. We do lots for charity. That's our main mission. We don't take ourselves too seriously. So we've played a lot for the RNLI. We've played for Velindre Cancer, Macmillan Nurses, Prostate Cymru, those sort of bodies to help them raise funds. A lot of community projects as well, So, I always say it's nothing to get in, it's £20 to get out. I think that tells you a little bit about, our standard.
It is. And your own musical tastes, what are they like, Mike? If you were sitting there at home reminiscing, what would you put on your CD?
Well, my brother was a grammar school boy, and I grew up listening to The Planets, Gustav Holst, the 1812 Overture, Simon and Garfunkel. But then I guess when I became a teenager, I sort of morphed more into the heavy rock sort of area, the Deep Purples, the Black Sabbath sort of stuff. So, and then, in between you get a bit of Welsh choir music. So, yeah, it's a bit of everything going on there, Rossa. Absolutely love the Irish traditional music. And in fact, I took the band over for a week in Ireland recently when the week of the Ireland-Wales game. We played one gig in Waterford. So a big shout out to Catty Barry's Bar in Waterford. They hosted us and they were amazing. We played at Greystones Rugby Club and that was fantastic. And we played on the Friday night was the International, and on the Saturday night we played at my old club, Lansdowne Rugby Club. And we had a very special welcome there. So, I think we're in demand in Ireland now as well. I think we might be looking at Glastonbury next summer. And then who knows after that?
I hope your agent's working hard to get more gigs for you. This year, moment.
He is working hard. He's based in New York. He's difficult to get hold of.
Busy man. In terms of poetry and good old Welsh literature, anything that you would use as a phrase that's kept you going through the years, that you turn to Dylan Thomas or something like that, or equivalent in Ireland?
Dylan Thomas, yeah. Well, no, not really. I must admit I didn't spend too long reading the great Dylan Thomas works, but no, I think I've probably lent towards some of the sporting sort of thoughts, like, one quote that comes to mind: "Your dreams have got to be bigger than your memories." So, every time you have success in sport, you just can't rest on your laurels. It's
who said that? The one about the dreams, is that from somebody, or is it?
I don't know the origin of that one, Rossa.
That's actually quite fabulous. When you said it very quickly, but when you think about it, it's quite powerful.
your dreams have got to be bigger than your memories.
Yeah.
And I think as a coach, you absolutely have to keep that at the forefront of your mind, because the minute you rest on your laurels and think you've made it, that's when, other teams overtake you and they really surprise you, So you've got to keep dreaming big, you've got to keep aiming big, and you've got to keep hungry, And if you don't, you really are in trouble in sport, that's for sure. The other quote I remember, and again, I'm not sure, I couldn't tell you who it was because it was written a long time ago, but it was the quote about Owen Glyndŵr. And part of my philosophy as a coach and leader is about having a cause to fight for, So, and I think that's part of why the identity thing is really important for me in terms of the teams that Ireland have produced compared to the teams that Wales have produced at regional and provincial level, as we discussed earlier, So Owen Glyndŵr was the last Prince of Wales. And he was a trained lawyer. And when an English nobleman took some of his land, he complained to, the House of Lords or the House of Commons or Parliament, I think it was at the time, that some of his land had been taken. And they heard his evidence because he was a trained lawyer. And then it was announced by the judge, what care we for these barefooted peasants. And I think that riled him up quite obviously. And, he fought back and became a sort of thorn in the side of the English king. So, he showed his passion. He had a cause to fight for. He felt it was justified at that time. And, I think when you're in a sporting battle, having a cause to fight for, and certainly as a coach, to have a team talk like that to deliver to your players, they're going to go out and get stuck in. So, so that's probably the other one that comes to my mind. And I remember when I was coaching Wales against England, we were the world champions at the time, getting a couple of quotes from Richard the Lionheart and taping them to the back of the toilet door in the English dressing room. So about how brave the Welsh warriors were in battle. So I often think back to, some poor lad needing to use the toilet and closing the door on his load of quotes about Welsh bravery. So that's an interesting thought.
Don't cross the border, will you? It's in case there's trouble for you.
So having a cause to fight for and linking it to those
causes,
sporting ones, is probably where I'd be coming from.
And you're a doctor now, is that a pressure, is it? And being an OB, is that a huge responsibility?
Disordered eating messaging is all around us. You can hardly leave your house or check your phone without seeing something about dieting, weight loss, or exercise. With all that pressure, it can be hard to recognize habits have become harmful or even an eating disorder. If you're concerned you or a loved one might have an eating disorder, I want to introduce you to Equip. Equip is a fully virtual, evidence-based eating disorder treatment program that helps patients achieve lasting recovery at home. Every Equip patient is matched with a multidisciplinary care team that includes a therapist, dietitian, medical provider, and mentors, and you get a personalized treatment plan that's tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Equip treats patients of all ages and all eating disorder diagnoses. It's covered by insurance, and there's no wait list. If you think that you or a loved one could be struggling with an eating disorder, don't wait to get help. Visit equip.health to learn more. That's equip.health.
Traffic may be locked, but savings isn't. Unlock the savings at Boost Mobile with unlimited wireless for just $25 a month forever. No contracts, no hikes, and you keep your phone. Unlock the savings at boostmobile.com/unlock. $25 forever requires customers to remain active on Boost Unlimited wireless plan. For full offer details, visit boostmobile.com.
Well, the boys in my village, take a bit of a mickey out of me, but
can you do prescriptions, Jeff?
Yeah, so, but no, I had an honorary master's in coaching from Swansea University, so you've done quite a bit of homework there, Ross. So well done. I'm most impressed. So, yeah, I had to do a talk, actually, when I was given this great honour. Yeah, I remember sort of talking to students about being bold and explaining that I'd had this accident at work and going back to the universe, I remember, this is absolutely true, my dad saying to me after the specialist had said, look, you shouldn't play rugby again, and advised me not to play rugby. My dad said, well, what are you going to do now, son? Now you can't play rugby. I said, well, if I can't play for Wales, I'm going to coach Wales. And I put it out to the universe. And it was a bold statement. And I tried to advise the students. So I think, you got one shot in this life, and you've got to make a bold statement and put the action behind the words,
I think we only realise that the older we get, Mike, and to know it at that time and say it, fair dues to you, brave, put it out there, and you saw it through.
Well, I'm a big believer in this, and I've always told my kids this, that it's happened to me a couple of times, Rossa. Going back to my lack of confidence, I really don't know why it came out, but it just came out. I said, well, if I can't play for Wales, I'm going to coach Wales. And the other one that comes back to me, which the universe stepped in on, was yet another girlfriend had finished with me. And my mother said to me, my lovely Irish mother said, well, what are you going to do now this young lady is finished with you? I said, well, and ditched you. I said, well, what I really need, I think Peg, we used to call her Peg, Margaret Mary. Yeah. Peg, I said, what I need, Peg, I need to marry a lady like you, and a lovely Irish lady like you. And next thing I know, I meet beautiful Bernie, and we get married. So I always say to my kids, if you really want something to happen, put it out to the universe. Shout it out loud and tell people about it, because I honestly believe if you do that, the universe is listening. So make those bold statements.
Yeah, and you've been recognised for your contribution to rugby with your OBE. So it's kind of gone full circle, even though when it started out, you thought it was going to fall apart, perhaps.
Yeah, after losing those first 4 games and being threatened with a sack.
That's the only one guarantee in coaching is the sack. That's, sad. That's the way it is.
100%. But, it's going like football management, I agree. And but of course, in football management, they
get paid big bucks to go away.
So big money when they finish. In rugby, it hasn't been. But you talk about motivation. Why do you do it then? Why do you put yourself in that level of instability and uncertainty all the time? It's because that fire is burning within you. It's burning within you. You think you can make a difference. You believe you've got something to offer, to add value, and it's.
And your CV shows you have, Mike.
I retired last year, Rossa, and I mentioned you off air that my daughter had been not well, so I retired last year, and now I'm sitting here almost 67, thinking, should I have one more go? Because that fire is still in there,
Wow. And when you look back at this stage, I'm the exact same age as you, so I know the feeling. Do you surprised the way your life evolved when you look back and where you got to, in a way? Is it all?
Well, it certainly didn't. I didn't have a plan around this particular route. As I said, I'd taken an apprenticeship with the electricity board. I trained up as a linesman and qualified, and that was going to be my life. And playing rugby until I retired, giving that my best shot. And I guess that's all I ever thought about. My life changed in oh so many ways. Some not so good, like the industrial accident. Yeah. But it led me to a path of great opportunity, by showing resilience, by getting myself fit again, by making that opportunity, going down to train, to do my own training with my local club. That opportunity opened up to coach my local club, So again, the universe stepping in.
And when the kids said to you they want to go into serious sport, you had no qualms. You said, go ahead.
I just want we just always wanted our kids to be happy. And the one teaching, if you like, I've always tried to get across to our kids is when they were particularly young coming through is it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And everywhere I go, people tell me, wow, we've met your children and they're really, really lovely people. And whilst they've all done well in sport, that warms my heart even more than just being able to say to you today that my kids have all represented an international team at some level or another. What really warms my heart, and I'm proud to be able to say it to you, Rossa, and to those listening, is people tell me my kids are nice kids, So, well, they've grown up now, but, that's...
We still call them kids.
Yeah, that's just so nice to hear, So all the other stuff, that's the icing on the cake. But, if your children grow up to have, full and happy and healthy lives, that's really does warm your heart. Sport is a sideshow compared to that.
Mike Ruddock, it's been a pleasure to have you stay on Aran Island Disc.
Thanks so much, Rossa.
Here's how to stay alive longer so you can enjoy Boost Mobile's unlimited plan with a price that never goes up. Do not mistake a wasp nest for a piñata. Stay alive and switch now at Boost Mobile. After 30 gigs, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Mobile Unlimited plan.
Here's a tip for you. There's a podcast out there with fans waiting to be your next customer. They tune in every week, they trust the host, and that host wants to talk about brands like yours in their own words to their audience. The problem is, you just haven't been introduced yet. We're Acast, where that introduction happens. As the world's largest podcast marketplace, we let you browse shows, see who's listening, and book host-read sponsorships or run your own ads all from one platform. Transparent pricing, real-time data, complete control. Start advertising on podcasts by visiting acast.com/advertise.